Yo guys, how's everyone doing? It's DBS9 here, and today we're back for another what if video. Now, I want to shout out a viewer called Jonathan Oliver, as he's actually the one who gave me this idea in a comment that was recently left. He asked a very interesting question, which was whether or not Cell could make Dragon Balls as he had Piccolo's cells. Although the answer was no, as Piccolo was a member of the Namekian warrior race, not the Dragon Clan which Kami is, it did get me thinking, what if Cell had Kami's cells? This should grant him the ability to create Dragon Balls. So for this what if, I decided to give him just that. Kami's cells in replace of Piccolo's for access to this ability. This is to prevent the regeneration from being insanely OP. Though it didn't really seem right to give Perfect Cell this ability, as he wouldn't really see any use to it, as his goal, after finally becoming perfect, was just to have a challenging fight, then blow up the earth. First from Cell was different though, as he would actually have a use for the Dragon Balls. So for this what if, it will be first form Cell who has the use of the Dragon Balls. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. So we start this what if off with Cell absorbing the people of Ginger Town. Piccolo fuses with Kami and goes to fight him. Here they begin their fight and it all goes the same as normal, and the aftermath is actually where some small yet significant changes occur. Though we didn't see the effects of these changes until much later. When Piccolo tells Cell the reason he's so strong is because he had fused with Kami, Cell realizes that due to Kami no longer being there, the Dragon Balls have ceased to exist. He also remembers that due to Jero seeing more use in Kami's cells as opposed to Piccolo's, he now had Kami's cells within him. Using this information, he devises a nefarious plan to become perfect. Eventually, Krillin and Trunks would arrive to the scene, allowing for Cell to lure Piccolo into a false sense of security. This gives him the opening he needs, and he hits everyone with a solar flare, allowing for him to escape. From here, nothing else would be affected, and everything would go as it does in the main canon, up until Piccolo's fight with 17. Well, at least from the C-Fighters' perspective, everything would go to normal, as to their knowledge, Cell would continue to absorb people to get the jump on them. But little do they know, Cell had a plan. Though, due to Cell having a plan here, Piccolo and 17's fight takes longer than it did in the main canon, due to Cell not coming to interrupt the fight. During Piccolo's intense battle with 17, he backs away to regain his breath, and realizes that he had seemed to have focused his all on 17 as it had gone. 17 and 18 had suddenly disappeared from his sight. Alright, this is getting a bit weird now. Sudden dark skies? Androids missing? Is that a bright light in the far distance? And it was kinda suspicious how Cell hadn't arrived here yet. Wait a minute. There's only one explanation to this. Cell had somehow revived Shenron. After coming to this conclusion, Piccolo quickly shares his insights with Tien and 16 to try to prepare for Cell's imminent arrival, but alas, it is too late. Cell appears like a green blur, decking Piccolo and rendering him unconscious. Tien and 16 try to fend off Cell to buy time for Vegeta and Trunks, and for a while, it looks like they're holding him back. That is until Cell decides to stop playing and uses a bit of his power. Yeah, that doesn't go so well for 16 or Tien. He starts with 16 and demolishes him before setting his sights to Tien, appearing behind him with a haymaker to the head, sending him crashing to the floor. Cell would descend and prepare to kill Tien, but would be interrupted by quite a powerful Ki blast. He would turn to see that it was Piccolo, and would compliment Piccolo on managing to stay conscious despite taking quite the hit. He would slowly begin to approach Piccolo. Piccolo, knowing he's beat, stops and switches tactics. If he can't win, he at least wants to secure some useful information. As Cell walks towards him, Piccolo asks how. How did Cell do it? And asks him how he was able to resurrect Shenron. Cell would laugh, saying although close, his assumption of him resurrecting Shenron was wrong. He would see no harm in explaining his plan to someone who is barely able to harm him. And so, he would begin to explain his perfect plan to become, well, perfect. He would explain that during his previous fight, he remembered a critical detail on his biology, and so he came up with a plan to utilize the DNA, specifically his cells, to create his own set of Dragon Balls. Of course, his first wish would be to transport the androids to his location, though before he could make any wishes, he had to first absorb a large amount of humans to guarantee he'd be able to keep them in place during absorption. After he had absorbed a sufficient amount, the rest was easy. Make his wishes, absorb the androids, then come here. It was flawless. Fitting for him, you know, it being a flawless perfect plan. Get it? No? Okay, I'll stop. Wishes? Plural, not singular? Wait, Piccolo, confused, would ask Cell how he was able to grant multiple wishes when the normal Dragon Balls were only able to grant a single one. Cell would laugh, saying he was far above Kami in power, so he's able to grant more. He would taunt, saying now he's probably able to grant even more, perhaps even limitless wishes. Piccolo would be speechless. He would try to stall for more time, but Cell wasn't having it. He would be about to finish Piccolo when he gets interrupted yet again. Though this time, it wasn't by an attack, but more so the appearance of a key or person. It was Goku. He had been watching from the lookout and could tell things were getting bad. Though Cell would be eager to fight Goku to test himself, Goku would dismiss this, saying he wasn't his opponent for today. Right on cue, Vegeta would land with Trunks shortly after. Vegeta would ask why Goku was here and ask if it were for his trash or to watch the fight, though it would be one-sided. Goku would explain it were for his friends, and with instant transmission to Tien, then back to Piccolo. Vegeta would tell him that once he gets to the lookout, he's to train, as after he's done with Cell, he was next. From here, the events of the main timeline and the what if would begin to realign again. I imagine Vegeta and Cell would fight. I imagine the only change here being Cell may end the fight faster due to him being more eager to show off his power. You know, as he had just fought like 3 people and gone close to killing each and every one of them before they got interrupted. So yeah, I can imagine he'd be pretty eager to show off his power. After this, Trunks would take over, use his Super Trunks form and lose due to being slower than Cell. Cell, out of curiosity, would ask what Vegeta was on about earlier when he told Goku to train, and finds out that they can in fact get stronger, leading to him proposing the Cell games. From here, everything goes as it did in the main canon, and the events leading up to and the majority of the Cell games will remain the same, though here is where the next change occurs, and pay attention because it really changes things. As I previously mentioned, most of the Cell games remains the same. Goku still fights Cell and ends up giving up, resulting in him picking Gohan to fight next. Gohan and Cell's fight goes about the same for the most of it, with the change occurring around when Gohan tells Cell of his inner power. Some of you may see where I'm going with this. So here, Cell would be faced with 2 choices. 1, to awaken this hidden power inside of him, of course at the risk of him potentially becoming stronger than him, or 2, calling his bluff and killing him, avoiding the risk entirely. He swiftly grabs Gohan, getting him into a bear hug, much like in canon. Then he begins to squeeze and squeeze. Though unlike in main canon, here he doesn't stop. He squeezes and squeezes until Gohan is barely able to breathe. During this, Piccolo would explain to Goku that Cell isn't a fighter. That Cell isn't a fighter. That Cell isn't a fighter. That Cell isn't a fighter.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Yo guys, what's up? It's Nigeria. Alright, so it seems like I accidentally said Cell. I don't know how I messed up. But yeah, Gohan. I meant to say Gohan. His son Gohan. Okay. So Piccolo tells Goku that his son Gohan isn't a fighter and doesn't want to fight. Sorry. And he isn't like Goku. This would hit a chord with Goku, as he would realize he was wrong to leave it all up to his son and put all the weight on him. Cell would drop Gohan, who would be barely breathing. He would throw the bag of senzu beans next to Gohan, giving him false hope before destroying it right in front of him. He would then look to Gohan and say his power was wasted on him before eliminating him with a death beam.
Whoa, Nitro, hold on. What do you mean he just kills Gohan? Why? Hell, why would he even change his mind from the main canon? What changed?
Alright, let me explain why Cell made this decision instead of the normal one. It's actually quite a simple explanation. In main canon, though his motivation was his own, he was influenced by the many fighters' DNA inside of him, specifically the main Saiyan's DNA. He had multiple chances where he could have easily killed them, but decided not to because, much like Goku and Vegeta, he wanted a challenge. He wanted to fight somebody worth fighting. Though here, he has Kami cells in place of Piccolo's. That not only takes one stubborn fighter out of his system, but replaces it with a, let's be real, slightly cowardly one. For those of you maybe like,
okay, Kami, I kind of get you calling him a coward, but Piccolo, I don't really see him being stubborn or cocky that much. In fact, if anything, I would more so see him contributing to Cell's intelligence.
Yes, but there are some instances where Piccolo has been shown to be stubborn or cocky. Though you should remember that this actually does make sense, seeing as he is, still a fighter like everyone else, and has that martial artist pride that everyone has. Whereas Kami, he doesn't really have that, because he isn't a martial artist. In fact, this has even been shown within multiple instances
of the 23rd Budokai, such as that moment where Goku tells everyone to get out of the way of Piccolo's omnidirectional attack while he'll tank it, and Kami insists for Goku to throw away his pride, to run and take shelter from his attack.
Some may call Cell's move here a bit cowardly, but Kami could also be seen as a bit of a coward due to some of the things he's done. Heck, Piccolo even calls him one when Kami delays their fusion. Now that you all hopefully understand, let's get back into it. Everyone seeing the death of Gohan would be distraught. Piccolo, in a sudden rage, would fly towards Cell, not caring what would happen to him. Goku would watch his friend fly in, despite his death basically being guaranteed, as there was no way he could win. He would then look around him to see his other friends around him. He was certain they would die too, and he felt it was his fault. Maybe if he had trained as hard as he originally intended to, instead of deciding to leave it to Gohan. He wasn't ready, but he put the weight of the world on him, an 11-year-old boy. Goku then said, "No, I will not let anybody die again. Gohan will be the last death on my hands." He would scream in pain as he pushed his already weakened body to its limit and further. He would say this is the only choice he has. They have. If he fails here, they will all die. As he begins to get to his limit, the ki he was exerting would suddenly increase to double of what he was previously exerting. Goku would be ascending past what had previously been the limit of Super Saiyans. He had reached a level beyond the Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan 2. Goku would sigh in relief, telling himself that he wasn't sure if this would work. He was lucky he hadn't stopped training. Here, after seeing Gohan's potential and even a glimpse of what he could achieve, though he left it up to Gohan, for the most part, he had attempted to reach Super Saiyan 2 a couple of times prior to the Cell games. This was because they didn't know the full scope of Cell's power, what with him now having the abilities of the Dragon Balls. So Goku just didn't feel safe leaving it all to Gohan. Goku would disappear and reappear next to Piccolo, telling him to stand by as he may need him. Piccolo, like everyone else, would be shocked at the power Goku now had, though Goku wouldn't be. He had something else in his mind, his ki. Despite him being able to achieve Super Saiyan 2, he wouldn't be able to keep it for long, due to a steady decline in his already low ki levels. He would tell Piccolo to retrieve Gohan, he'll take care of Cell. He would then fly to Cell and shout to him saying he didn't have time for games and that they would end this now as he began to charge up a Kamehameha. Cell would say he wouldn't have it any other way as he began to charge up his own Kamehameha. Soon they would both fire and their beams would collide with one another's. The beam struggle would be intense, with Cell starting out seemingly winning, while Goku, with his newfound transformation, proves he is able to keep his own as his beam slowly begins to gain more and more ground. Eventually, his would be the superior beam within the beam struggle. Goku, feeling his Kamehameha beginning to envelop Cell's beam and himself, would begin to put all his power into it at the last moment. As Cell's ki gradually dropped, he'd suddenly feel his ki shoot up massively, but he wouldn't have time for that as he had to concentrate on his attack. Goku would start to feel Cell start to gain ground back, as he was slowly turning the beam struggle back in his favour. He decided it was now he needed to put his all into the Kamehameha. Everything he had, all his ki, all his power, he would leave nothing in reserves as he put it all into his final Kamehameha. And just as he does, he would depower into his base form. He had used up all his remaining energy, and now he was all out. Though he had lost, he wouldn't be angry. He would accept his loss and thank his son. Thank him for allowing him to surpass his limits, and would hope he would meet him in the afterlife. Just before Goku gets hit by Cell's Kamehameha, he would see the sky transitioning from dark to normal. Weird, Goku would manage to say before being destroyed by Cell's attack. Cell had defeated Goku. The Sea Fighters would look in disbelief. They had lost. The Earth was now doomed. Cell, however, had a smile on his face. He had fought his biggest challenge yet and won, proving he had reached perfection. Now it was time to have some fun. He would birth Cell Juniors and command them to have fun with the Sea Fighters. Soon, each Sea Fighter would fall, one by one, until there were all but one left. Piccolo would have fended off the Cell Jr. as well, though he had reached his limit and was on the verge of death. As Cell approached him, floating that it was fitting for the Sea Fighter he had first encountered to be left last, Piccolo had one question. How? How did Cell overcome Goku's attack? Sure, Goku had used up a lot of ki, but even what he had should have been enough to overpower Cell, so how did he survive? Cell would laugh before saying that no matter what had happened, he was always going to win. He would say that this was all planned from the start. When Piccolo would ask him what he meant, Cell would say, "Piccolo, remember those wishes I made? I told you I'd wanted 3, though I never specified when each would become active." Seeing that Piccolo didn't understand, he'd begin to explain. He had only used one wish to transport the androids to his location, The other two were set to conditions, which would only be met moments before his death. These were to restore his health to 100% and to revitalize him as well, so give him all this energy back. Piccolo would be shocked upon hearing this. Setting witches to conditions? He had never heard of the Dragon Balls being used like this before. Though this may have been because ever since the creation of the Dragon Balls, he had lent their abilities for humans to use, and humans tend to think very narrow-mindedly. Perhaps if he had instead experimented with his own creation, he would have been able to prepare better for this. Cell would laugh, saying that's the face he longed to see, absolute despair upon someone. Piccolo, when asked his final words, would respond, telling Cell to go to the what he crawled out of, before being vaporized by Cell. Now, Cell had truly won. He had eliminated any opposing threats, and was free to roam. What would he do now? Well, I think he would do what he said he would in his battle against Gohan in main canon, though not so much destroy, as I don't see that as being very in character for him. Instead, I could see him having a twisted sense of Goku and Vegeta's thirst for searching for stronger enemies, so he'd go around planet to planet, destroying planets that he'd deem imperfect or didn't have stronger enemies. Though I'd like to throw in some classic Toriyama humor, though it may also be akin to Toyota. Whatever. Let's say that on a manga page, between chapters, we see Cell allowing a planet he deems perfect in the art of cooking to live, courtesy of their amazing food. This shows us, in a comedic way, that Cell actually does spare planets. This way he would, unknowingly, be acting on his claim of being a god of destruction. Kinda funny, huh? Meanwhile, on a certain planet, a god of destruction awakens from his slumber, having a premonition of his rival, the legendary Super Saiyan, appearing before him. He is informed of the carnage which is occurring below, and takes off with Whiz to see to it that this imitator is stopped. Eventually, Cell would arrive at Fampa, and Paragus would come to meet him. Cell would tell Paragus that he had come to judge the imperfections of his planet, though these could be excused if there were a worthy fighter inhabiting said planet. Paragus surprisingly says there is, and calls for his son. Cell would become intrigued, as he did indeed sense some power residing within Broly. Curious to see what he was capable of, he would send his Cell Juniors to attack, wanting to test his power. At first, Broly would be getting manhandled by them, but soon he would begin to adapt. Before long, it would be him doing the manhandling. Cell would be surprised. He didn't expect Broly to be faring this well. For once, his Saiyan genes would get the better of him, as he would begin to get excited at the thought of finally fighting somebody that could challenge him. Finally, a true challenger. Though he had come across some interesting foes, none had been on par with Goku. This guy may be different though. He would shoot a Makanko Sappo at Broly, which Broly would easily hit away. From this, Cell would know his enjoyment for this fight would be at least on par with his scuffle against Gohan. They'll begin their fight, with the two being close in power, though Cell had been suppressed. Within a short while though, Cell had noticed he had been having to go closer and closer to his true power, and eventually, he was actually starting to be pushed by this behemoth. He had had enough and would begin to charge up a solar Kamehameha, planning to eradicate Broly. He would leave no one who could stand against his might alive. Broly, in response to this, would charge his own key attack, though before either of their attacks could collide, they would see a bright flash. It seemed to emit some kind of defiant energy from it. A god of destruction would appear. He would turn to Broly and ask for his name. Slowly he would answer, Broly. The god of destruction would then turn to what looked to be his slender acquaintance and asked, Whiz? Was his name Broly? Is that the name of this foul imitator? Whiz would say no, and the god of destruction would turn to Cell and ask for his name. Cell would be speechless. There was so much, it was on another level entirely. He almost felt inclined to bow down to show respect. That's how much ki he was sensing. Beerus would say, no response? I suppose this Cell person must be you. I am afraid I must destroy you. You have committed various unforgivable deeds, though it is only one which has pushed me to my limit. You have taken it upon yourself to toy with the title of God of Destruction, going around destroying planets as you see fit. For that, you must be destroyed. With that, Beerus destroys Cell. After this, Beerus inspects Broly and believes him to be the legendary Super Saiyan that would one day rival Beerus, though Broly has no idea what he's talking about. Beerus would ask if they could spar, and if they didn't, he would destroy this planet without a trace left. This would get Broly angry, and with permission from Paragus, he would launch at Beerus, so fast that his punch would almost connect with Beerus. He'd be surprised as he didn't expect this from him. At first, Beerus would barely try in the fight, but eventually, as Brody got stronger and stronger, he'd start to enjoy it more and more. They would fight for a while until Beerus had been fully satisfied. When he had his fill, he would knock Brody unconscious. Beerus would then thank them for allowing them to spar and ask if they would like anything in return. Paragus would request that they be taken to a more hospitable planet, preferably the nearest one. Though since Cell destroyed many nearby planets, it would be quite far away. Beerus would say, "Consider it done." Whis would take them all to a planet called Earth.
I'm joking. Yeah,
Here, Beerus would tell Paragus that he would like to fight Woody again, and tell him to make sure he trains him. He would also ask Wiz to give them some of this planet's currency for them to buy resources. Wiz would give them a generous amount, and with that, they would be off. And this seems like a good place to end it off. Sorry guys, I had planned on finishing this all in one part, but then thought that there was no rush, and also because it would be way too long. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this what if. If you did, then don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Be sure to comment feedback, as that's also greatly appreciated. And yeah, with that said, I'll see you in the next one.